Borage is one of those plants that I really wanted to fall in love with. It's pretty, it's edible, and so many other gardeners give glowing reviews about it. If you're like me and you have a plant in this category that you really want, or at least expect to like, then it gets planted everywhere just to see where it grows best and to learn about it as fast as possible.
It went in the front bed, in the in-ground bed in the back, as well as the raised beds in the back. Should you start from a seed or a transplant? Yes. I mean, technically, you should start from a seed. That is what the recommendation is. But not knowing this and starting seeds indoors, the borage seedlings transplanted just fine. We started planting in January. This is the low desert of Arizona. We had a fairly mild winter, so we could just cover up the plants if needed. But I also found out that you really need warmer temperatures for the plants to really start taking off. Did stay for a very long time, just two-dimensional. These first leaves were on the ground, just very flat. And it's only when the temperature started warming up that it started becoming three-dimensional, call it bolting. If I had started the plants off in late February or early March, I would not have risked freezing, and it probably would have about the same growth rate. If you're concerned about how much birds like borage, especially in that seedling state where a bird will come through and rip everything up, I honestly don't know. These seedlings always had some kind of protective measure over them. It started with about 10 days of straw mulch, which I didn't realize I shouldn't have on top. It was stunting the growth of seedlings. Look! The first seed is coming up. I think it's borage. Not all is lost. I used a couple different barrier methods. The first one being just an old sunshade that was just torn up. I put it on the ground, hopefully to warm the soil up below. Now, once things started popping up, it was time to try a different barrier method. That was putting a couple of arches, a ladder mesh that you would put in a retaining wall, putting a couple of those over, and putting a layer of bird block on top. You can see just this week, we started getting little buds. One thing that I've heard is that borage is one of those plants that if you trim off the center stalk, then it will bush out and have more flowers. So let's see, we'll compare this one right here to, let's say this one right here. It's got tons of flowers. That's gonna be a fun experiment. It's taken months to get our first blooms, which are very pretty. And we found out the blooms point down. Also tried trimming off the center stem to see if more would grow along the outside. And I believe that it doesn't even matter if you do or don't. These are coming off of the central stem coming up. These are very full and bushy. One of the reasons why people like growing borage is that it's supposedly all edible. There are better things to eat as opposed to these spiky leaves, even if you do cook them and it goes down. Just cilantro, sweet potato leaves, all things that don't fight back. Grow that instead. However, the taste of the blue flowers, once you remove it from the spiky business, it's actually quite sweet. So here, if you peel the spiky leaves off, totally comes apart, and you are left with the flower. It is very sweet with the nectar that's in the middle here. It is a lovely garnish to add on to a drink. As for watering needs, you can see the oyas right there. It's about 18 inches away from the borage here. However, we have been hand watering to establish the corn as well as a couple of sweet potatoes, a couple other things the last couple of months. So it certainly has gotten supplemental water, not just from the oya there. I came home to the front bed looking pretty sparse here. I don't know what happened to the borage today. We've had several hundred days and it hasn't been this bad. And let's see. The soil is wet. I don't know what causes, if it was the massive amount of wind that we have right now, but this might be the end of the borage. we'll see. It's been a hot few weeks. You can see everything is stressed, dying. That's the cilantro right there. The borage after the windstorm last week. Definitely some are dead. It's not flowering anymore. And the corn. Even adding some shade from noon on didn't help. Nothing bounced back. It was the high temperatures at the end of May, and even though we had a kind of nice beginning of June, it was just too much. The borage was done. That's where the story ended for the front yard garden bed.
That leaves us with borage in 2 of the backyard garden beds. To be fair, every single seed in all the beds were planted at the same time. But there are a couple other reasons why the borage in the back beds were able to keep going once the heat of the summer hit.
Both beds did not get full sun exposure all day. The location of the in-ground bed prevented it from getting morning sun, and in the afternoon it was under sunshade. That borage plant lasted through at least May. Here's a picture of it on May 21st. The borage in the raised bed had all of the morning sun and had shade cloth cover by about 9 in the morning. It was getting full shade from a tree at 4 p.m. That plant lasted well through June, maybe until July. I took this video on June 12th. This borage was by far the smallest in all the experiment. As for watering, I use Garden in Minutes garden grids in both of those back beds, and I run those on a regular schedule dependent on how much it rains and how hot it gets. The amount of water was similar to the oyas in the front bed. All the beds were consistently watered. In addition, all 3 beds had a healthy 2 inches of hay for mulch. The soil was the raised bed mix from the Arizona worm farm, and I did not fertilize during this period of time. The last 2 borage plants were nowhere near as full or had as many flowers as the front bed plants.
The fact that I only have 2 pictures of the borage in the back beds, and actually that picture and that video were taken for something else, that's another way of saying they weren't particularly spectacular or anything close to what was happening in the front bed. So it seems like borage likes full sun, regular watering, and shade in the afternoon when it gets really hot. It is really easy to start from seed, and it's not really picky about soil, and it doesn't seem to be a heavy feeder that needs fertilization. Although I call the Arizona Worm Farm mix the Cadillac version of soil. It's really good stuff.
So here's why I am not planting borage again. You'll notice I'm wearing gloves, and I rarely wear gloves in the garden. If you do not take the plants out before they are dead, they are vicious. It's bad before, even if you just want to pick a flower off, you're contending with these spikes. Since there are so many other things to plant in the garden that do not have this feature, I'm going to plant things that are friendly to hands and feet. Definitely are a few seeds in there, but I'm not keeping those. I'm not even going to fight the plant for those. Those can just go straight in the trash. If you do like borage, it reseeds easily. You can see here I had the straw mulch piled on about 2 inches high, and new seedlings still came through even in the heat of the summer. And maybe it even likes the heat because it did really well. But this is where this experiment ended. On the positive side, Seedsnow, your seeds really germinated well. They were survivors. But now these are going to someone else that can enjoy them at a free plant and garden stand. It is December 25th, and you can see there's a whole lot of borage that has popped up in the last month. So yeah, we're done with that. So you can see, even though that's an inch or 2 down, because that's where the seed started. These volunteers really want to start. Dang. I was like 4 inches down. I'm pretty sure that's borage. These definitely are. Nope. 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 Yoink. Nope. This is not where I planted it either. That was another long one. And that little one. Nope.
If you enjoyed this and perhaps even agree with the opinion, because this is definitely opinion, I'm going into a couple plants every single year. I'm focusing on 1 or 2 every season, planting them everywhere and following along with how well they do. Consider subscribing if that's something that you're interested in. I will put one of my favorites right here.